If you look back at what you have made from carnal knowledge through Primary Colors, is there a pattern that you see there about what you have chosen to do looking back?
Well, I don't look.
By 1998, Mike Nichols had been through the Hollywood motions. He started his career as a film director 22 years earlier with the adaptation of the acidic Edward Albee play, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which saw Nichols handle two of the greatest egos in the acting community. The on-set stories about Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor are legendary. The duo, who was having an affair and would later get divorced and marry each other, would go for lengthy, boozy lunches and return only late in the afternoon as the crew waited around to begin shooting. Nichols got a Best Director nomination for his troubles, and the film was by all accounts a huge hit. His second nomination would come the following year, with The Graduate, which became an even greater success. It was the 1-2 knockout combo every director dreams of. Over the next 2 decades, Nichols had his fair share of ups and downs, from the misfires that were The Day of the Dolphin, The Fortune, to the witty, astute, and exquisitely crafted Working Girl, Postcards from the Edge, and of course, The Birdcage, which continues to have its fair share of pop culture influence. 2 years later, Nichols made a special movie, perhaps the most underrated of his career, and certainly one of the great films about American politics and the influence of the media in how the political game is played. We're talking about Primary Colors, starring John Travolta, Emma Thompson, Adrian Lester, Billy Bob Thornton, and the great Kathy Bates. The film is an adaptation of Primary Colors, a novel of politics, a roman à clef about Bill Clinton's presidential campaign in 1992, written by then Newsweek journalist Joe Klein. However, what we see on screen isn't a one-to-one translation. Despite the inevitable and all too evident similarities to Clinton, his staff, and the backdoor antics that plague the campaign, the film filters the narrative through the eyes of an up-and-coming political operator named Henry Burton, and how he gets ingratiated in Governor Jack Stanton's presidential bid.
You lost him.
Fuck him. He's got me.
It's a classic narrative device in Hollywood storytelling that allows audiences to empathize with the larger-than-life figure without ever getting too close to it. In other words, there's room for love and there's room for heartbreak. Henry can get swept away by the governor's charisma and also be destroyed by uncomfortable truths, and he never sees either coming. The appeal here is twofold. On the one hand, we're privy to a compelling behind-the-scenes that moves fast, with great wit, and a real sense of the political landscape past and present. On the other, we get to tag along for the whirlwind journey of the inexperienced Henry, as he comes of age by facing head-on the nuances of the political game and just how big of a role the media can have, and often has, in dictating the future of a nation.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you watching? Yeah, it's just going off now.
And we're out. Thanks, everybody.
All right, folks, that's right.
And it's over.
The film is quick to jump into the deep end of the political pool, and in the middle of a chaotic campaign, with potshots and scandals being fired left and right, comes a moment of peace. A moment that digs deep for humanity and finds it, and it comes in the form of a patient, methodical shot full of symbology. More precisely, this shot. Nichols said in an interview that this was the very first sequence he envisioned upon reading Joel Klein's book, and that he immediately knew how to shoot it. Starting from outside the shop, slowly pushing in, and ending on Henry walking inside to meet the governor. If the first thing that comes to mind as you watch this shot unfold is Edward Hopper's 1942 masterpiece Nighthawks, you're not the only one. Nichols never publicly acknowledged such influence, at least not explicitly, but the parallels are inescapable. Nighthawks came in the heels of the Pearl Harbor attack of 1941 and the grim months of fear and paranoia that followed. Perhaps because of that, many art critics have a dark reading of Hopper's work, leaning on the sense of alienation and the vacant gazes of the diner's attendees as a justification to the nihilism they claim it represents. But the Art Institute of Chicago sees it differently. Sarah Kelly Oler, a curator of the museum, writes that perhaps Hopper saw this brightly lit diner not as a place of disconnection, but as a beacon of light and hope against the darkness, a moment of finding community when everything outside seemed grim and unbearable. This optimistic reading, one that sees Hopper celebrating the tired and hard-working common man, has a direct link to the donut shop scene, in which Governor Stanton connects with the same demographic, one being personified by the friendly, hardworking, and not too bright Danny, the employee working the night shift. There may not have been a world war in the early 90s, but America was battling a severe economic recession, something that the Clinton campaign reflected. Their platform was in part intent on battling the dire economic prospects that face America's younger generation. In primary colors, Governor Stanton's focus is education, but the two are connected, as Stanton believes that education will lead to more and better paying opportunities. And this includes Danny, who becomes a sort of moral anchor for Stanton at a time of need. You see in the previous scene, Stanton's staff is debating what to do regarding the news of a juicy sex scandal that threatens to derail his entire campaign. But Stanton isn't a part of this conversation. He escapes the noise by trying to connect to his core values and to his constituency, reminding himself why he decided to go down this path in the first place. Again, Oler's reading of Nighthawks comes to mind, a moment of finding community when everything outside seems grim and unbearable. It's undoubtedly a scene of idealism that helps Nichols paint his own painting, that of a flawed man with good intentions that often lacks the morality that people demand from a president, but that simultaneously might be exactly who the country needs in order to move forward. This sequence sort of tells the whole story, the good, the bad, and the complex. We see Stanton being charismatic, connecting to his voter base, and genuinely caring about the state of the country. We can also tell that he's lying when he says that he remembers the football game.
Oh, yes, that was a great game, wasn't it? Yeah, I saw that. It was a great ground game.
And the only reason he's at the donut shop in the first place is because of his own indiscretions, the past coming back to haunt him. When it comes to people, things are never simple, and Nichols is one of the great masters of observing the nuances of human behavior. Equally fascinating is how, despite the focus of the scene being the governor, the point of view is actually Henry's, because this is a crucial moment for him. Up to that point, Henry wanted to believe in the governor as a politician and as a human being, but kept bumping against outside allegations and internal behaviors that fueled his doubts. But this scene, in which he sees the governor talking to Danny, with no cameras and no press around, genuinely connecting to him, ultimately determines where Henry's loyalty will lie when push comes to shove, even towards the end when he's faced with a complex moral decision. In a film filled with terrific performances, gorgeous cinematography, and fluid camera movements, this shot just hits differently. It's smooth and tranquil, a shot that seems to be a product of a filmmaker who understands the darkness coursing through the political landscape, but who nonetheless places value in a sense of community and chooses to believe in the bright future without neglecting the harsh realities of the present. In other words, it's a Mike Nichols special.